Welcome to episode 99 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies, plus tips, apps, and gear. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my co-host, Warren Sklar, is here. How you doing, Warren?
Morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it might be. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and we also are joined by a returning guest, Mr. Chuck Joyner from Mac Voices. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm doing good, David. Number 99 already?
Yes, that's why I was going to kind of say this to you. I've got kind of a two-part celebration of approaching my 100th episode. This was number 99, and I wanted to have you on this week because we got to fill some guests here. And you were, of course, kind enough to be one of my first guests, as well as inspiring me to become a podcaster, which was most memorable, much over 5 years ago now, I believe. I remember correctly, at MacStock, which I'm sorely missing. I'm sure you are as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember that discussion. It's like
it was like yesterday, and it's on video too.
Yeah, and it's like, David, why don't you start a podcast? You love this stuff, so why not? And here we are, 99 episodes later. Very cool.
Yeah, it's quite a milestone coming up, and this is too. I mean, that's why I wanted to kind of celebrate today, this week, and next week as well, and kind of have some fun with it, and might even play some clips from old episodes. I haven't listened back in quite a long time, but there's some doozies out there. But find a few highlights of what we've accomplished over those 100 episodes. But we'll see what happens. But there is a lot to talk about this week. Lots of news. Including the iOS is out of beta, and all kinds of news are coming out. And we're going to kind of have a discussion about, do we remember iChat? I remembered it. I thought it'd be an interesting topic to talk about. And I have a smartwatch that I want to unbox. I know I'm crazy. Why am I buying a smartwatch when I have an Apple Watch? But we talked about this last week, but I wanted to do that as well. So let's go right into it and start on the first story. And the first story is Google Fi is now going to be supported by eSIM on existing iOS devices. This was in Mac Rumors. In April, Google started allowing new users who signed up for the Google Fi mobile service to use the eSIM that's integrated in the 10R, 10S, everything from the 10R up into the current models, and the SE model too, the iPhone SE that's out now. And they now released a new version, which is a version 2.5, will now allow users to use dual SIMs and frees up that physical SIM in their handsets. I've talked about this before. I think it's a great idea. T-Mobile and a lot of other carriers have already moved over to eSIM. Chuck, what do you think of this?
I think it's just the way the future's going.
It is.
I've moved to having an eSIM for one of my accounts, and then I put in a physical SIM for Mint Mobile, and I have two lines on my phone, and it's pretty easy to do.
It is.
And so now this is just one more carrier that gives that option. So if you haven't looked into it, folks, and you have a need for two lines or because of coverage or data or whatever, go for it.
Yeah, no, Mint Mobile is a good example. I mean, I've got a Mint Mobile account, and they're awesome for a secondary carrier, and I'm using the SIM for that. And then T-Mobile, which of course they're basically Mint Mobile is on T-Mobile, but good to have a backup. And I'm using that as my eSIM on my 11 Pro Max. So, Warren, what do you think of this?
Yeah, also on the T-Mobile bandwagon there, which is Mint more or less. But when I started my new job, I wanted a separate phone number, and I have a 11. I think it's not. Yeah, it was the 11 Pro, current phone. So I went to T-Mobile. I'm like, well, I'm going to get it. Let me get the eSIM for a new number and all that good stuff. So we started talking about it, and T-Mobile has a thing called Digits too.
Yes.
And Digits is basically it's a app that it will give you another phone number, and then will give you can text through it. You can't iMessage. It's not a full thing, but it does the job. So I guess in theory, I went with that. It's a lot cheaper than getting a whole new phone line. It's like $5 a month or something like that. But in theory, you could actually get 3 phone lines on your phone if you really want to between the digits, the eSIM, and a SIM card, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I heard about the Google thing is if anybody has, I only know one person in my life that has it, the Google Fi. But from what I understand, you have to uninstall the app.
Right. That's
and
what the
then
article says.
reinstall it. Yeah, to get it to work.
Yeah. Well, I initially installed it on a Pixel. I had a Pixel 2 XL, and I was able to get the experience of the eSIM at firsthand because that's when 2XL was a couple years old, and then they had it already. And then, of course, I had to port over my Google Voice number in order to get that number. Now Google Voice is gone. It's pretty much all. It's now Google Fi. So, but yeah, it's this is going to be good because I do recall they did offer a SIM card for iPhones that could be used with the service, but you would lose like functionality like iMessages, that kind of stuff. So, which was I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. So, did you have something else to say, Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I want to point out because Warren and I both said we have 2 lines on our phones now,
yeah.
And this is an ideal solution if, as we're in the COVID-19 situation as we record this,
yeah.
And I'm not sure that anybody's going to do anything just for the period of lockdown we've been in or the foreseeable future, but as things evolve and the way we work changes, maybe you don't want to be giving out your cell phone number. And so all of a sudden having that eSIM capability for a second line, whether the eSIM is your second line or the standard SIM is your second line, you can have 2 on the same phone. And it's immensely convenient. And that way, when the weekend comes, you can turn the business phone off if you want to. So, it's if you're not sure, folks, why would I want to do this? That's kind of a reason that you might want to think about it.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. And if you have a business line, that's one of the biggest things this is going to solve beyond the fact of being able to travel internationally. And which, of course, none of us are going to be doing much for a while anyway. But you can take have your business line and have a personal line and have it all on one phone. I always see these people that are carrying around 2 and 3 phones. Well, Barry Falk, and carrying. Well, he has more reason as he does Pokemon Go, but people carrying a lot of extra phones with them. Yeah, I know it's crazy, and this is going to solve a lot of those problems for people who don't need to have more than one phone.
When I went to T-Mobile and I was about to get the new line on eSIM, they were going to offer me a free phone. And of course, there were Android phones. So I started looking at them and, they're not offering anything major, cheapy Android phones. And I took a look at 1 or 2 of them. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I don't need any of those.
Well, actually,
it's a shame because free phone, but.
Yeah, actually, I can lead into that. That I don't have that as a news story, but they just announced that a few hours ago that T-Mobile is offering a brand new iPhone SE if you trade in a qualifying phone.
Something. I don't know what qualifying would be.
I didn't go deep because it was too close to when the show started recording here. So, but I mean, they're always enticing that kind of thing. But that's great to see carriers doing that kind of stuff to do that stuff. So anyway, let's go.
If I can find it.
Yeah, if you find something, we'll go ahead. I'll go to the next story here. And this is on Mac Rumors. Apple does release Watch OS 6.2.5 with the ECG app in Saudi Arabia. That's important. But we might have some listeners in Saudi Arabia. I hope so. And there is new Pride Watch faces. And so they released this 8th update to the Watch OS 6 and it of course runs on all the modern Apple Watches, not Series 1 or Series 0, I should say. And other than that, there wasn't really anything else found as far as any differences. I've got it already installed, and other than the new watch faces, other maybe some bug fixes like they always say. Any thoughts on that, Chuck?
Only that I have to wonder, and I haven't researched this, but we're pretty familiar with what in the U.S. what you can say is and is not a medical device and what class of medical device and all. And I have to wonder if there's what kind of restrictions there are for Saudi Arabia as well as every other major market. Or whether there are restrictions regardless of what kind of designation you give it or what you're trying for. So it's because it seems strange that it would take this long to get out. So I have an idea that there was not a technical reason, but probably more of a regulatory reason would be my guess.
Could have been, yeah. Just like the API they had that they had to put into the iOS 13.5 because they couldn't use 13.4.5 as the next iteration. So, but the watch didn't have to have that. Same thing with tvOS. Warren, do you have any other comments on the watch update?
No, only if you did the beta, you have it already. Sometimes on release day, it changes a bit, but it's the same one. So if you did the beta for it, it's the same version.
Yeah.
Same with the phone, the Gold Master that came out. But
we'll hit that. Yeah.
Actually, I do have. It caused one bug for me, which is a stupid bug. But I use I don't know, you can't see, but I use picture faces, rotating picture faces of album as my watch faces. And whenever I first flip my wrist, only the top portion of the picture shows until it goes to the next one. So it's introduced a bug. So there you go. There'll be a next version to fix that bug, I'm sure.
Probably
Follow radar.
Point one.
Yeah.
And then tvOS, another article in Mac Rumors. tvOS went 13.4.5. Again, generally not much in difference in updates with tvOS. Didn't see anything else. Probably don't need to really say much about that other than being aware that that is out. And then there was an article last week about the HomePod, and you know how Mac Rumors can kind of make little big deals out of things. Oh my gosh, HomePods were sold out on the Apple Store online. What are we going to do? And they said no word when it's going to be back online, but you still can order it from Best Buy or B&H Photo. And then an update was no, that seems to be they must be appearing online with a slight shipping delay. Which I'm thinking, are they going to be introducing the smaller version of the HomePod and it'll be less price? Warren, what do you think of that?
Yeah, actually, Chuck, we talked about it a couple of days ago, right?
Yeah. Okay.
You know, the rumors are out there, and I think, I don't know. I'm 50-50 whether Apple would actually do it or not. You know, half of me says they're going to compete with some of the less expensive devices. And then the other half says that's not really their thing, and they want to kind of be a high-end, hi-fi system. If they did it, I think it would do something. It would need to do something else that the HomePod itself doesn't do. Mm-hmm. Like your Sonos Move, is that what it's called? Or Sonos?
That's what I have. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that thing actually does more than the HomePod does. It's very portable, but it's a great sounding kind of thing. It's something you could kind of take with you. Yeah. It does have voice integration. It has Siri, right? Or not Siri. It has the
A-Lady from Amazon, and it also has Google.
And Google.
One or the other.
So I mean, for a portable speaker could do that. It's not the most easy thing to do if you're sitting in the middle of the beach to get internet connectivity. So they think of respond to you, but so and then Chuck and I were saying maybe they could use them as create some kind of sound system for your TV, put two of them up front for satellites, and use them for that, which would be kind of cool too. Yeah, I don't know, 50-50. That's my thought.
What do you think, Chuck?
I've had 3 separate conversations about this on this topic in the last couple of days.
Yeah,
and I'm torn all over the place. I love my HomePods. I mean, I've got a stereo pair, and they sound great, and they're responsive. And if I whisper her name, she will hear me, and she's a room away.
Yes.
And the microphones are kind of amazing. And I swear, if I have it playing the volume set at 10, and I whisper, I think she hears me. So, and I find it difficult to believe that Apple would be willing to compromise on that experience. Yeah. I don't feel like they're that large. There's definitely a place for a less expensive HomePod. Mm-hmm. The question is, would Apple be willing to compromise on the functionality?
Right.
And that strikes me as a little strange. If they'd started with a smaller HomePod or maybe a theoretically less capable HomePod, and then brought out the better one, that would have made more sense. But to see them go backwards. But on the other hand, they kind of did that with the iPhone SE. So, there's precedent for it. I don't know. It's going to be another one of those things that when it comes out, look at it and figure out if it's for you or your particular use case.
Yeah. No, and I have the stereo pair as well. I mean, the only reason I have the Sonos Move is because of my work anniversary. So, but the Sonos Move does have a lot more capabilities. That's for sure. The app itself, you have so much media that you can add to it, as well as as you mentioned more about taking it out on the beach and stuff. You actually utilize it as a Bluetooth device, because if it doesn't have internet, then Amazon or Google isn't going to work. It has to be on the internet. So, but
Right.
no, go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah. But let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Internet connectivity aside, I mean, because that could be with any other Bluetooth speaker.
Right.
We all talk about the features, and I have to wonder now. We're three geeks, okay, and a lot of the audience here is going to be geeks.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, how many of those features? If you got the set Sonos Move, and sure, you play with it, and you say, oh, it can do this. Okay, I'll make it do that, and you're happy about it. But in 3 months, 6 months, how many of those features are you really using? And so I get a little weird about this, because you have to have the features to sell and to make people want to buy it. But at the end of the day, what is it that I'm really buying, and how many of those features am I actually using after that initial Christmas Day play period?
That's funny you say that, actually, because like you guys, I have a nice stereo pair of HomePods in the living room, and I don't use them a lot because between it's in the living room, somebody's watching TV, somebody's doing something else. So I just wear earphones most of the time anyways. But when somebody wants to play music, I also have an A lady sitting next to it. I also have a Google thing too, so I have them all. But my wife is so trained to say the A lady, play music, and that's that's what she does. And it frustrates me because I have this great sounding system in my living room, and she's sitting here using the first gen the first gen Silo, and it's fine. I mean, so to your point, if you ask any of them to play music and it doesn't really matter. How much does it matter, and how much does the price matter, and how much it's just the ease of access. And when somebody finds something they like with it, they're going to keep using it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, because it is, and again, this is an argument I had with someone. I tend to think of it as a smart speaker, but the operative phrase being speaker. And so I want the speaker to sound as good as it can, because that's its primary function. It's not to look up, how many legs an anteater has. It's nice that it can do that. And I'm sure there are plenty of people that use it for those kind of things, but I want it as a speaker. If I wanted something that could just look things up, then I can buy the little dot from Amazon and, get the information, but I sure don't want to listen to anything on that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The dots are usually not that great. But the other thing too is, what bothers me about the HomePods is if you want to play the sound from your Mac, you can't do a stereo pair. I mean, it only is the iPhone and the iPad, and that's it. And that's what makes it a little challenging the way they set that up. But I guess it is what it is when it comes to that. I don't know if anybody's tried that.
Airfoil used to fix that. I don't know if it still does, but there's a program out there called Airfoil that might do it. But
we'll check that out.
Rogue Amoebas. I didn't know. I didn't even think about using Airfoil for the stereo pair.
Yeah, Airfoil. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. That's the reflectors. Same company makes reflector. I think.
They did it for the initial AirPlay one. Yeah, they did it for I used to play with it with the AirPlay one, but I haven't played with it since. So you never know.
Good idea.
Yeah, good idea. I didn't even think about that. All right, let's move on. And next story, T-Mobile is going to be phasing out the Sprint name. No surprise. This was another article in the Mac Rumors. They said they're going to start easing the Sprint name off of the stores. Branding will disappear, and it'll just be removed from the bills and all that stuff. No surprise here. I'm glad that this is finally over. I mean, we were talking about this merger for like 2 or 3 years, I think it was, and it's going to be a big, strong carrier, and I'm a proud customer using them too. Warren, what did you think?
Yeah, as long as I get rid of that annoying guy with the glasses on the commercial, that's good too. So.
Oh yeah, who used to do the Verizon commercials? Can you hear me now?
He was he was the old Verizon guy.
Yeah.
I'm Matt. I used to be from Verizon, but now I switched to Sprint. Go away. Not you're done for.
Yeah.
But did you see Lily, the actress from I forget her name, but the AT&T girl is back.
Oh, she is.
She was cute. Yeah, Lily. She's a comedian, but Lily's Lily. I'll look her up. Yeah, she's fun.
Any thoughts on this, Chuck?
No, Lily Tomlin.
No, Lily, the young girl. She did the AT&T commercials.
Yeah, Lily. Yeah.
Okay.
We don't watch a lot of commercials.
I don't know. I mean,
she has a strange name. Her name is Melania Milena Van Troop.
That I don't know that.
And she's
you know too much about that.
Commercials, and now she's back. Yeah. Well,
I mean, I clearly have missed these commercials. I mean, this again, it's corporate consolidation.
Sure.
And there's no compelling reason to keep a second brand name. So why wouldn't you pull it under it? It simplifies a lot of things.
Yeah, just like AT&T Singular back in the day. And it also mentions The Verge pointed out that T-Mobile and Sprint will have a long way to go to actually combine the actual networks, and they see some problems already emerging. So, when we also talked about GSM versus CDMA, networks have to combine, but they got 5G going for them, and that was the big push was it's going to make them go faster to get where we need to be with 5G and the networks. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where things go.
They just announced, did you see this one? The 10 years, it's 10 years unlimited 5G for emergency services like true first responders, those kind of people, which is, makes me want to join the firefighters. I'll fight fires to get that 5G. Whatever it takes, man.
I didn't see that one coming, Warren. I was waiting for you to say it makes me want to, go back and be a customer to support this effort. And it's like, no, you want to get on the other side.
I want the 5G. I want the free 10 years unlimited 5G. I mean, how bad could the fire be, really? I mean, it can't be that bad.
We're drinking the T-Mobile Kool-Aid. Okay. And then you turn around and look at AT&T. This is on Apple Insider that the ad review panel is telling AT&T to stop using that misleading 5G
this
claims.
Is good.
My gosh, when that first came out, I'm like, are you kidding me? 5G isn't anywhere near being released yet. And then they go around and then the iPhone says 5G. Oh, look, my iPhone is on 5G. So I hope that this gets removed. I'm pretty sure. Well, according to this article.
They said they were going to get rid of it. Yeah. They said we don't agree with you, but we'll fix it.
We don't agree with you. Yeah. What'd you think, Chuck?
I mean, where was the FCC in this mess?
Yeah, exactly.
This is way overdue. I'm sorry. This is corporate misdirection at its finest.
Yeah.
And so at least somebody called them down on it. And Warren, that's I think it is interesting that we don't agree with it, but we will comply. So was there somebody putting extra pressure on, or what? I feel like there's a story behind this story. And at the end of the day, what does it matter? You're getting what you're getting, and regardless of what they call it.
Right.
But it didn't. I'm sorry, this wasn't one of AT&T's finer moments.
No, it wasn't. And then last story,
we
have this.
That they're so close to actual 5G at this point. No, I was just going to say they're probably so close to the actual 5G that they're like, at this point, they don't care as much as they did a year ago when they put it out there.
Yeah, more than likely. Then last story, again on Mac Rumors, Google Podcasts. The podcast app actually was released on iOS a couple of weeks ago. They finally brought it to iOS. Another podcast catcher or a podcatcher out there. But I was playing around with it with Android, and it was a decent environment. But now it's on iOS, which is great. Well, now they've added CarPlay support to it to iOS, so now you can use the Google Podcasts app in your car and be able to listen to your podcast. So another way of being able to consume podcasts is through your car. What do you think, Jock?
Hey, it's good. I mean, it's for, as podcasters, it's good for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
The
Gets more eyeballs,
the more
ears, I should say. Or both.
Yeah, I
in your
mean,
case.
I've struggled a little bit with, how much of a difference is it going to make in the iOS space? Simply because not only does Apple have its own, but there are several really, really good podcast clients out there. But on the other hand, if you are a Chromebook user or in the Google universe and have an iPhone, then like all of us, we all want to standardize on one podcatcher. That's where our subscriptions will live, and it keeps track of what we listen to or what we're going to listen to. So it's not a bad thing. It's another option.
Absolutely. Any thoughts, Warren?
Not too many. I mean, I have trouble. I just use Apple Podcasts for the most part.
Yeah.
But sometimes I do want to have at least one program out there that syncs across everything, because I know the A lady will do podcasts too, and I'm scared to ask her to play a podcast of mine because I'm sure she doesn't know what podcast I listen to. So there's got to be, maybe you guys know, but there's got to be one podcast app out there that will sync across everything, so it knows your playlist.
Actually, there is.
I haven't found one yet.
Have you looked at Pocket Casts?
No, does it work on the A lady?
Good question. I don't know, but I'm loving Pocket Casts now because first off, I want to have a podcatcher that does both audio and video. But I'll watch video as well, and it does sync across all devices I've seen. I'm not sure about A lady though. You'll have to check that.
What was it called?
Pocket Cast. They have a free version, then you have a paid version, like a yearly fee, but it's worth it. So, I mean, Chuck, have you use Pocket Cast for, I assume?
No, I use Overcast.
Oh, you use Overcast. That's right. Yeah. But there's so many.
Yeah, I use Overcast.
It doesn't.
It has
the A lady skill. Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, I'll check it out. So basically, if I ask the S person and the A person and the G person and the H person and the R person, they'll all know about what pocket that I just listen to Mac Voices 24/7, and it will just kind of know that about me, which is good. I'll check it out.
That's right. All right. That's the news for this week that we went through. Beta testing. We always have this topic on our show each week because Warren is the crazy living on the edge beta tester like we all know and love. But there wasn't any of the beta tests anymore because 13.5 went live. It's now in public world. Everybody has it. I hope you went and downloaded it. It was released. It was kind of funny. The news story said that 13.5 was Golden Master, which you knew that was eventually going to come on. Usually Apple waits, a couple days before they'll finally announce, okay, it's released to the public. But they released it that same day. Did you notice that, Warren?
It was the next day, I thought. But
was the next day? I thought it seemed like the same. I thought it was the same day as I was looking to read at the articles.
I don't know. The week went too fast for me, but it was close, and I think Apple and Google made some kind of announcement that morning that the COVID API was ready to go, and then right. I think the pressure was on to get the app out to everybody. So that's right.
Good. And that's what the big release was, the COVID-19 exposure notification, which of course is off and doesn't work. And they added the Face ID now. When it sees you're wearing a face mask, it's automatically going to bring the passcode up to put in, so you don't have to wait. But other than that, there's bug fixes and the normal stuff. The HomePod got 13.4.5 is the version that's being installed on the HomePod. I just don't know what this COVID-19 centers around. I don't even know when it's going to work. Did you have any thoughts, Chuck?
No, other than just, I mean, I applaud Apple and Google for what they're trying to do. It's being hindered by politics and by privacy issues, and I don't want to get into that on this show or anywhere else,
Sure,
because there's so much controversy at this particular moment in time over lockdown versus not lockdown, reopen versus not reopen. But at the end of the day, I guess I'm taking a longer view on this, whether it's COVID or not. This kind of contact tracing would be a good thing if we, for the next one. And I certainly hope none of us live to see the next one,
right?
Like this. But it's the reality of the world today, with as connected as we are or were, and I think we will be again, and how much we all travel, and the potential spread of things. So when will it be turned on? When will it be turned on? And I know there's been a lot of naysayers. I've heard a lot of discussions about, well, but it means everybody has to have an iPhone or something compatible with the system.
Right.
Yeah, there's going to be no perfect thing. There's just no question about that. But anything that helps us get past this a little bit faster, easier, and saves a few lives or makes you feel safer, I think is a really, really good thing, as long as, and see, here I go, even I'm qualifying it, as long as it doesn't cross too many privacy boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the big hang up, is the privacy stuff. And we'll see how it goes. Right now it is off. There is nothing that is functional in the United States that it can be used with at the moment. But that's going to be coming sooner than later when it comes to that. Any other thoughts, Warren, before we move on from beta? Because since it's your favorite topic.
The only thing with the tracing is maybe it's just me, but I haven't seen any like huge mainstream media info about the API or this whole thing. So we know about it because we read up on this stuff. And then, I got, a couple people on Facebook saying, hey, heck no, I'm not installing this because they're misinformed.
I saw some posts.
Yeah, but, I haven't, it came out yesterday and, nightly news guys didn't tell me, they didn't mention any of it, which I find kind of surprising. I mean, I've heard it in a few bits here and there on mainstream media, but not a lot. And I think that's not a good thing. I think, if Apple was smart and if Google was smart, and they are, there would be some kind of big news story saying, listen, this is out. You should update it. This is how it works. You could turn it off if you really don't like it, but leaving it on is going to help beat this thing. And I haven't seen that yet. Maybe you guys have, but I haven't.
Nope, I haven't seen it.
I'm happy to show my pessimism. It doesn't scare anybody, so therefore you're not going to see it on the evening news.
Yeah,
that's true.
And that nightly news guy does like to scare me every night for some reason.
Yeah, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. So.
Yeah, that's well said. Well said.
Maybe on the Today Show, they're more happy. They do the happy stories kind of thing. So I think
like Ryan Seacrest looked exhausted on American Idol. They had to make a big deal out of that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's
he looked like he had a stroke.
Yeah. What's wrong with him?
But Savannah Guthrie should be telling us about the content tracing app and how it's all good. Don't worry about it. Nobody's watching you.
Yes. All right. Let's not go on that hole.
I thought I was cynical. Holy cow!
No. I love it. I turned mine on in beta. I tried.
Yeah, beta 1. All right, let's go ahead and move on to a new topic here before we go and get any more trouble. With everything going on with people using Zoom, like we're using Zoom to record this podcast, and Google Meet and all the conferencing that's going on, Microsoft Teams. There's so many conferencing packages that's out there right now. And I was going through some files I had sitting on my machine, and sure enough, I found my owner's manual for MacOSX Leopard from 2007. And who doesn't forget about iChat? Now, iChat was a great program for its time, and I really thought that Apple was really at the forefront for all of these services that we talked about, which is video conferencing, messaging, doing presentations, which you could do in iChat, and this is going back 13 years, and that was the same year that the first iPhone came out, which of course the iPhone didn't do anything back in those days, and you could do video backdrops, iChat Theater for the presentations, screen sharing, and I'm assuming you guys used iChat pretty extensively back in those days, right?
Oh, sure. It was kind of it was ahead of its time.
It really was. That's why I wanted to have a discussion about this. Just Apple really had a lot of this stuff going, but then what did they do? They broke it all up. You have FaceTime now. You have messages. Everything is in multiple different applications, and it's kind of sad because I liked the fact that you had a one-stop shop for everything that you could do, and I know they've done that. They split up iTunes and they did that, but with the advent of with Zoom and everything else that's been being used, this was a great application to use back in those days. What do you think, Warren?
Yeah, Warren, go ahead.
I'm sure you guys have more memory of it too. The only thing I kind of remember doing with it is adding my AOL account to it.
That's right.
Through that. So that's the only thing I kind of remember. But other than that, I don't think I had that many people that even had Macs around then. So yeah, it was actually before my time,
okay.
more or less.
All right.
With that.
Then we'll let Chuck give his view on it.
I think he just called us old, David. I'm not sure.
He did. We're not much older.
I didn't.
Yeah, experienced.
Experienced. That's a better word.
Yeah, it was limited, of course, to Mac users, and therefore, the pool was a little bit shallow, and even that, a lot of people weren't. They weren't comfortable with video, and they weren't comfortable with some of this. Being online was it was pretty well entrenched at that point, but using it in that fashion was just something radical. And it's not the first time Apple has kind of been way out ahead of the game, and then things developed a little bit differently. Think about it. Messages almost had to break off because of texting.
Yeah.
And and chat, it only made sense to have chat go online, and so I understand why they did it, and why they broke it up. But it'd be nice if they would bring it back. But then again, that's just one more thing, and you have to serve a lot of masters. With FaceTime now, I'm going to FaceTime you, and that's it. And the handoffs between I think all of them are, especially with the iPhone, are pretty easy. So, but I remember using iChat a lot for different things.
Yeah,
but again, it was kind of limited because not everybody had an iOS device or a Mac, an Apple device. Put it that way.
True. But just more so, I think what really intrigued me to discuss this topic is the fact that, like I said, the Apple was way ahead of its time, during that period, not having all of these services in one place, because never thought of doing video conferencing back in those days was still pretty new. You had things like I don't know if GoToMeeting was around at that point, but and other services, Zoom is definitely not around yet, but because it's so hot right now, and just realizing, Apple really was quite innovative with this, and at least we have the tools now that they're not like the way they used to be. But I think even with messages, you can share your screens and all that kind of stuff. So they did incorporate a lot of those tools later in these current apps, right?
Oh, and I guess from where I sit, this feels like it's another example of Apple. It would have been great if that could have been widely accepted and adopted. But, Apple users were ahead of the game. We were ready for a lot of the stuff that we're using now. And COVID has definitely accelerated the adoption of some of these things. There's no doubt about that. So, but, the number of people that seems continue to be intimidated by turning on their cameras to do something like this, forget the sharing to Facebook or YouTube, just,
Right.
a one-on-one or one on a couple video conference, and people still, I don't want to turn on my camera. It's like, well, you look the same way you always do. I have to look at you any other time. Now I'm just looking at you on a screen. So what's the difference?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
so I feel like once again we were kind of ahead of the game, and then when the game caught up with us, we were better prepared to take advantage of it.
Yeah. That's. I think that's well said to say where we are today. I'm happy with the apps. I mean, for the most part, FaceTime. I mean, I think FaceTime they just updated, so the boxes are not all over the place. That drives me crazy. I mean, multiple user FaceTime call and they're moving all over the place, and you could talk about other services, but I won't bring up any sort of subjects for you, Chuck. Microsoft
Thank
Teams.
you, Dave.
But yeah, them app updating services. But I mean, Zoom has become the de facto service now, and it really has. I mean, it's amazing what it can do, and having the ability to have 25 people on one screen and being able to have a nice, clean conversation with most of those people, and albeit sometimes it can be a little out of control if you have the mics open and everybody talking at once. But it really, like I said, with this quarantine, this really has brought a lot of people to open their eyes and realizing how virtual meetings can really do good things.
No question. And that's why I think it's going to become a lot more common. I don't think that you're going to suddenly see virtual meetings go away whenever we all go back to business as usual, whatever that will mean.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if I have a meeting that I have to drive 2 hours for a 20-minute meeting and then have to drive 2 hours back, gee, that's a lot of wasted time. Now I can make some of it up if I'm on the phone or by, listening to something or turning that driving time into productivity.
Yeah.
But if I can just sit at the desk, click a button, and you and I do our discussion for 20 minutes, and then, okay, good to see you. We got it done. Talk to you next time, and move on to the next one. I mean, why wouldn't you do more of that as we all get more comfortable being, or the novices get more comfortable with this kind of interaction?
Yeah.
We're going to see probably in a few months or later, there's going to be a whole discussion on work-life balance because of this. And there's going to be a whole, a whole debate whether this was good or this is good because, I was talking just to my neighbor today who's working from home, and he was out there working on his driveway during business hours, but there's no business hours anymore. So, he's like, I get a lot, he does IT too. He's like, I guess some things at night I could do. So, the work-life balance, people like the 9 to 5 because it was 9 to 5. And the theory is you come home and you don't work and you spend time doing other things. So this is going to blur that a lot. And, it could be a good thing and it could be a bad thing. I personally like it. I think it's great to not have to drive. It's great to be able to use technology and save. My wife who works got a new job in Chicago, but she's working here. But her last job, they would fly her out to London from Philadelphia, literally to meet like 2 people, and then fly back. And she would spend 10 times more traveling than being there. And, I would say to her, that doesn't make sense. We have phones, I don't even understand. And she'll be like, you don't understand. I mean, this is how they do it. And, they're clients and you got to meet in person and blah, blah, blah. So, those people can have a big change to go that way because that's how they feel. They feel like, you can't get the work done like this. You have to go in person. But again, people, if this is 24/7, and, we could work at 8:00 at night just by walking into another room, family might suffer. It could have negative effects. So we got to keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is probably going to be my worst analogy of the evening, but I was having this discussion actually this afternoon on a business call. There are some aspects of business that you really need to be face-to-face. There's no question about it. And it's, to me, it's sort of like, going to one of the oil change places that they just do oil changes and maybe just a little more, as opposed to going to a full-blown dealership where you can get your oil changed, your tires rotated, and 27 other services. There's some things you really need to go to the dealership for, but there's some things that you really don't have to go to the dealership for. And that's where I think that the video conferencing is going to shine. So to your point, Warren, I think there's great value in spending the time to travel, to shake hands and sit down with somebody, maybe eat dinner, and discuss a deal, or go through a day or two of a deal. But there are a lot of more routine, mundane meetings that take place that really just could be done just as easily by Zoom, Skype, Teams. God help me. That
we like our teams. Come on.
Or Blue Jeans.
I
can't think of what's the Adobe one. Is it Adobe Connect? Do I have that right?
Gosh, what's the name of it?
Yeah, I think I know
what I'm talking about.
There's a Cisco WebEx. That's another one.
Yeah, Cisco
WebEx, GoToMeeting. I mean, that's it. There's so many out there that somebody's going to find the one that works for them best. Right. So we're going to have to all become fluent in all of these.
But these businesses are going to have to figure out which is appropriate for what. And in person, I think I don't do corporate anymore for the most part, but I remember them. And corporate meetings, are horrible. They're
yeah.
It's always the same thing. People, and then nobody agrees, and then people aren't paying attention. So it's hard enough when you're looking at each other. It's stuck in the same room together. We'll see how hard it is when I could literally. What were the kids doing? Kids are getting smart. They're getting cutouts of themselves and putting them in front of the thing, so they look like they're. My favorite one was somebody posted that they changed their name in Zoom to be Connecting, and made a blank screen on there. That's my favorite. Great. So,
yeah, I want to hire that kid. I want to hire that kid. That kid was brilliant.
That's a good one. He got credit for being at the class, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm. So. Or the folks that have videotaped themselves, just moving around and looking and paying attention, and then not paying attention for a minute, and then just put it on a loop to to look like you're as long as somebody calls on you, you got it made.
Yeah, and if Dennis Hopper is watching you, it looks like you're still driving the bus. Yeah, that's a Speed reference. If you don't remember that one, all right, just making sure.
So let's just think about that. 13 years ago, that Apple was ahead of its time with iChat, and all the tools we have today are even better and have improved since that time. And it just inspired me to talk about that because that was a good product, and we can leave it at that. So.
It was a good topic. I don't think we're going to have time to watch you open up a box to watch.
We might squeeze it in. We might squeeze it in.
I want to see the box.
Yeah, we're going to do an audio unboxing, So next topic, Apple TV Plus now has over 10 million subscribers. And granted, most of those subscribers are probably the free tier, like I think all of us here, because we bought new iPhones. It's going to be interesting to see where the subscription base goes from there. But Apple must think it's going somewhere because they decided to buy back catalogs of both the movie and TV shows that were out there, and I'm finding they do have a lot of good content. They keep adding a lot of new content. I know both of you would have some good thoughts on this topic and what you thought with the purchase. Chuck, why don't we start with you? As far as what did you think of them adding these catalogs as far as titles and such?
I think it's interesting the timing of it. I mean, obviously, a deal like this doesn't get done. You don't just call up somebody and say, "Hey, well, maybe with Apple's cash, you do." But
hey, can I have your movies?
But probably not. Probably this has been in the works, and it just happened to come out at this point. I think Apple's recognizing, and again, it may have been driven to some degree by COVID-19, that creating a sufficient channel of new content is going to be a challenge. just because of the time involved. And so if they could pick up a back catalog of things that would interest people, it just gives them people one more reason to want to subscribe or to stay within the Apple TV Plus, ecosystem for their entertainment. I think it's still going to be tough to compete against something like Netflix or some of the others, but hey, they got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And so why not?
Warren, what do you think? What do you think of what their motivation was with adding all this?
Exactly what Chuck was saying. I think they're looking into it because they had things in production that are on hold. So they know they're going to have at least some kind of period of when the subscriptions end, and people need to decide if they're going to keep it or not. So they need to entice them to stay. Me personally, I'm not a huge back catalog person. I don't watch a lot of movies over and over again. I did when I was younger, not anymore. But Apple TV has some decent things. I told you, I think I would.
Yeah.
My
I was
wife
going to ask you that question. What
we're watching Defending Jacob right now is the one we're watching, and they just put out the trailer for a couple of things that I'm interested in. One is Dads, something with dads, and then the other one is Dear ... which is kind of like a documentary thing. And they're also doing they just greenlighted something with the sports, right? They're gonna spotlight a sports star, Tom Brady, basketball player, things like that, which should be fun. I'm not personally hurting for content between Amazon, Netflix, Apple TV, and regular TV at this point. I mean, I could, and just sometimes, a lot of times I just turn off. I've gotten to the point where sometimes I'd rather not start something new, and I just rather just not tune in to TV anymore because I think it's overloaded at this point. It's a good thing. There's a lot of good things out there between all the stuff out there, but could be, it could be overwhelming.
It is.
But I personally, I think I'll keep it going. You would know. When did we buy our phone? Was it October?
It's going to be almost a year, yeah. It's going to be close to a year here pretty soon. You're like October, yeah.
So we're going to hit that soon, right? So, although, I spent another $20,000 in Apple stuff since then, I don't think they care. So I got the year. We'll probably keep it. And I think I told Chuck this on Tuesday, but if I'm in the middle of some kind of series that's being released every week and I got to finish it through, I'm going to pay the $5. Yeah. If it ends and I'm not in the middle of something and I could wait a little bit, maybe I'll let it run out and start it back up. I need to.
And I think we did have part of this discussion too, Warren. But the thing is, with Apple's pricing of the product, it really is one of those that's easily overlooked. It's almost not worth the trouble to cancel. Almost, right. I can think of a lot of subscriptions that I would actively seek out and kill. But okay, so at this price, they might, I enjoyed that show, or I heard about this new show that's coming up, and so I'll keep it on. So if I want to watch it, I can. I think the price point is one I really hope they stick with the price point, because I think I've thought this for a long time, that maybe it's not a microtransaction, but it's low enough to fly under the radar and not, when it pops up on your reminder or on your bill or whatever, you don't think, oh, do I really need that? You just kind of glance over. It's like, fine, keep on going.
It's $4.99.
Yeah.
And the original content, I mean, the catalog just keeps growing and growing. It's just amazing what Apple has really done, really committed to a lot of these shows. They keep signing on more and more big artists and doing this stuff. So, I mean, I think it's got a really big future, honestly. And then adding that. So go ahead.
The interesting thing is their iTunes catalog is huge.
Right.
But it's not really theirs, I guess, is what the story is. So maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll flip a switch and all of a sudden anything on iTunes could be included in Apple TV Plus. That would sell. that would sell pretty quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
and I think that's the whole idea behind Apple TV Plus is Apple doesn't want to be completely beholden to the studios and their
Right.
whims. I mean, even now, I forget which website. Every month it's okay. Here's what's leaving Netflix, and here's what's coming to Netflix.
Yeah.
And that I understand why it's being done, and I understand the business model, but it still kind of annoys me that if I haven't gotten the whole way through a series now, oh boy, I either have to go find another service where that series is or where it's moving to, and sign up for that, or I have to wait. And
Netflix is terrible. I mean, never have I successfully said to myself, I want to watch this movie, and I pick a movie and say, let's check Netflix to see if it's on there. Because as soon as I do, I search it, and there's it's not there. And then titles similar to, Back to the Future too. So you can't use Netflix as a place where you want to watch the movie you want to watch. You use Netflix as a place where you watch a movie that you're scrolling through and it appeals to you at that point. With that said, I think there's always, with all the services, there's some way to get it at this point, which is fragmented, but there's one of the services going to have it, whether you have to buy it or not. It's a different story.
But that's where you get into the problem is, yes, as long as I'm subscribed to all those services, then I can find it. But meanwhile, I'm dropping $100, $140 a month to subscribe to Hulu, Netflix. Here we go. Disney, Apple TV Plus. What have I missed? Amazon Prime. Yeah. You keep going, and it's like I'm back to the same problem I had with the cable TV. It's like, okay, I've all these channels and nothing's on, or nothing that I want to watch is on. Right. So,
well, and then this was a great conversation, a lot of lively discussion about this topic. Then I wanted to push over on the other side of things, the podcast side of the business. It looks like Apple really is ramping up, wanting to get original podcasts push. Two things caught my eye in the news that I'd like to get your views on. Is Apple is hunting for a podcast chief to lead the original content push to tie in with Apple TV. So they're looking to get podcasters that would be exclusive to their platform. The other story was Joe Rogan. He's a huge podcaster, has been doing it for many, many years. He's just signed a $100 million exclusive deal with Spotify. So he's leaving my Apple Podcast and won't even be on in the streams. So, Chuck, what do you think of that, being a podcaster like I am?
I want to see how this is going to work. Because if I have to subscribe to Spotify to listen to somebody's show, it's no longer a podcast. Now it's a program, and that just has a completely different feel for me. And I mean, good for Rogan. Obviously there's $1 or $2 involved here for him. There's another Spotify podcast. Please don't ask me what it is, because I can't tell you right now.
There's a couple, yeah.
But there's several over there, and it's like, okay, great, and the same thing with Apple. But if it's a podcast, it's not, it's a show. It's no longer a podcast. And maybe I'm being a little, too old school on that. But it's start thinking of these people as independent content creators. Because if it's a podcast, it's out there, it's open, it's free. You can subscribe to it in any podcatcher or whatever. If you're going to put it behind a paywall of some kind, then it's a little something different. I don't know what you call it, but call it content, call it a show, call it something. But it just doesn't feel quite right to me.
Well, what do you think, Warren?
Oh, nothing. Just if you end up selling this our podcast to Spotify 70-30, is that good?
That's right.
I'll take the 30.
I'm lucky if I get 1%. Come on.
Yeah.
I have no thoughts. I never listened to Joe Rogan, so it doesn't bother me at all. So.
I actually hadn't either. So, I mean, I know he's very popular. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. I mean, the other thing, as you look through this article and relates to what Apple's looking for as far as the original podcasts, they're really looking to ramp it up into molding it into Apple TV. So to try to try to stave off the competition like what Spotify's doing with that. I mean, podcasts are really changing. I mean, it's a lot different than Chuck when you started with this, and now. I mean, I think it's. I'm excited for it. I mean, I think there's so many different platforms that we can put our talents on, and I think it just, if you're in this now, you could just keep going and make this is going to get bigger.
I agree with you, David. I think it's going to get bigger, but I also think it's going to become more fragmented because it's already so fragmented. And we face more and more, we as podcasters face more and more competition for eyeballs and ears.
Right.
And so, the whole idea, I mean, somebody like Joe Rogan or some of the other big podcasters, they have a much broader appeal. We pick a niche topic or topics, or,
True.
We focus on things, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, frankly, I have no interest in doing a big, broad show every week or every couple of days or whatever. Cause then it starts to feel like work. This is more enjoyable. And yet I still think we deliver a lot of good value for what we do. So,
yeah.
And I would love to see podcasts, if you will, on Apple TV. And even if Apple pays people to produce them.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think they're podcasts anymore. I think now they're produced content for a channel. But at the end of the day, you're right. As a content creator, call us whatever you want, but we have a lot of options.
Yeah, absolutely. That can be a much longer topic that we're talking about. And so with time getting close, Warren, you were right. We're going to have to move the smartwatch unboxing to next episode.
It's an $18 smartwatch.
It's an $18 smartwatch. So
it's sitting in my drawer now. So
it can wait. I did want to hit this one topic, and I do have an app to talk about as well. WWDC is coming on June 22nd, and we had a bit of a debate with our friend Guy Searle over on the Mac to the Future Go podcast yesterday.
He's watching.
I know he is watching right now, so I want to make sure that he hears this. That we've had a debate. The iPhone 12, which we assume that's what it's going to be called, that's going to come out probably September, October, like generally it happens every year, and iOS 14. I mean, iOS 14, of course, is going to start developing as soon as the conference kicks off. At a month from now, is going to be released this year. He seems to think that it's going to happen next year. And Warren, you can go ahead and tell me what our thoughts are, because you and I both agreed he's out of his mind, but go ahead and tell him what you think.
I don't know when the iPhone 12 is going to be out. I mean, normally comes out in October.
Right.
Ish. So, I mean, could it be delayed a few months? Yeah, it's not going to be a year. I get what he's saying. So, his point is if they release iOS 14, if they start the beta process next month, and they're not going to want to actually release the final product before the phone is close to being out, because it seems like that would deter people from, I don't know. I get there's a reason to it. But in that case, definitely iOS 14 will be next month. The first beta will be unveiled. 100%. WWDC is going to at least talk about it. And then that day after Tim's keynote, there'll be links to developers to download the first versions of all this stuff, like the year before and the year before and like the year before. Yeah. If not, they would have canceled WWDC, because that's what it is. I mean, that's the point of it. Chuck was, we were talking a little bit before, and he did make me think a little bit, because it's not a week. There's no start and end date of this conference either. So could go on for a month, who knows? And they could, talk about it early on, and then maybe a month later at the end of it, now you could all have it, because, it's been a month and there's more time has gone by. That's possible. But I think the phone will be a few months late, probably, and the iOS and the macOS will be on schedule.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Any thoughts on this, Chuck?
No, I can't get excited over these discussions.
I know beta, yeah. or
Well,
rumors too.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have Guy come on and talk about what microphone he's shouting into right now.
Oh, please no. Please no.
But
He already complained last night his microphone sounded horrible because he was using condenser mic up here, and that sounded horrible. Go back to a dynamic.
Yeah,
He just commented.
We love Guy.
This stuff is going to come out when it comes out, and my thing always is, I just don't want Apple to rush it, because anytime anybody rushes anything in the tech world, things go really, really wrong. So if it comes out in 2020, great. If it comes out in 2021, great. Just let it come out stable and solid. And, I think definitely we'll see features of the next version of iOS at DubDub. Whether we will actually see it announced or when it's going to come out, none of us know what's going to happen between now and 6 months from now with the global health situation, how much we're all going to be allowed to get out and get back to work or continue back to work, whether we're going to see any spikes and, all of that. So I think there are a lot of moving parts here. And I just, when it comes, I want it to be stable. That's the only thing I have to say.
Agree. All right. And going a little over, but that's okay. We're having a great time talking to Chuck here and to Warren. I have one app I wanted to bring up. This is an app called Music Smart. And this app, I found intriguing. I actually found this originally. It was talked about on macstories.net. What this app can do is it gives in-depth info about your music. So when you open up this app, it actually links to the database to Apple Music. And then it sees all your playlists. So I'm scrolling through my playlists right now, and I got quite a bit of them as I'm looking through here. And then you pick a song, and if there's any particular song that it's looks for details on, it's going to give you information like the artist and beyond the artist. It's like who was the publisher? It's insane how much detail there is about some of this music, and I found it to be very interesting as far as providing that, because people may want to know something about a particular song that actually is going to give things like trivia and credits and discover samples and finding out more about the artist beyond what you actually see. I thought this was a real interesting app, and it's only $1.99, which isn't too terribly expensive. It already it's in the top 20 for apps out on the App Store. So check it out. I'll have a link in the show notes. Is this anything that interests you, Chuck, at all? Music?
It'd be really interesting to run it on my music library, as many contradictions as there are in there, and see what it spits out. So I'll play with it. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, I think for $2, it's worth playing around with it. I mean, I'm scrolling. I have so many Billboard. So like, here's a good example. Has a song from Aerosmith, and it says, what's the genre, when was released, who it's copyrighted by, and there's editorial notes, which, I mean, that in itself just makes it real interesting, being able to see someone with some editorial about the specific song that you might not know about. So, and then it'll tell you what tracks are on that specific album, and then you go right to the artist, and then it just gives you the name of the artist and where they started. So in this case, I'm looking at Aerosmith, and it says the name of the band, and then so they were from Boston. So check it out. It's a absolutely great app. I'm pretty impressed with it, and I want to keep playing with it a little more and be listening to lots of music and reading all that stuff. So, we've had a great show here. We appreciate Chuck, you being on the show, and let me go ahead and wrap things up, and we'll find out where everybody can find you and do all that fun stuff. So this is a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can find us on Twitter @intouchwithios, and you can subscribe in your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts and many others. But better yet, go to our website, intouchwithios.com, where all the links for all the ways to listen to us are there. And I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter @DaveG65. Chuck, again, thanks for being here. Thanks for helping us celebrate the almost 100 episodes since I've done this. Again, you really inspired me to do this, and can't believe it. 100 episodes is just upon the horizon here, and I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your inspiration. So I really appreciate that.
I'm glad you're thanking me and not threatening me. Thank you, David.
I'm not, because I'm loving doing this. So
That's good. Well, thanks for having me. It's always a blast. I really appreciate it.
I really enjoy you being on the show. And then go ahead and let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, the best way is visit me over at macvoices.com. That's where we're talking to a lot of interesting Apple and technology people about a lot of interesting things. Yeah. And the best way to contact me is probably on Twitter as @ChuckJoyner.
All right, great. And Warren, you don't like telling people how to find you, but you got to tell them anyway.
I don't. You can't make me. Just I hang around you and Guy twice a week, so that's where I could find. That's where I'm found. So.
Back to the Future. Check out the Facebook group Back to the Future. Come join us. And it's a lot of fun.
If you don't like Facebook, then don't join us.
We gotta like Facebook. So
yeah. So there you go.
Anyway, thanks Warren, thanks Chuck, and thanks for you to be listening and everybody that's been listening out there for almost 100 episodes. So I really appreciate it, and we'll talk again soon.